It's a little after 3 in the morning, and you're awake. Not slowly, not gently. Your eyes are simply open, fixed on a ceiling you can't quite see. The house is silent. The street is silent. And your hand is already moving toward the phone on the nightstand, because you already know what it will say, and you already dread it. 3:14. You have to be up in 4 hours. And here you are, again. So you start the math. 4 hours if you fall asleep right now. 3.5 realistically. You think about the meeting. You think about how tired you'll be. You think, the way you think every time this happens, that something in you is broken. That everyone else is sleeping straight through the night like a normal person. And you are the one lying here in the dark, failing at the simplest thing a body is supposed to do. You have a word for this. The doctor has a word for it. The word is insomnia. And you've come to believe it's a malfunction, a glitch in the machine, something to be fixed with a pill or an app or more discipline. But what if the waking was never the malfunction? What if the thing you've been taught to treat as a disorder is one of the oldest, most normal rhythms your body knows? And the only thing that's actually broken is the story you tell yourself at 3 a.m. about what it means. The answer is buried in 500 years of forgotten diaries and in a sealed room at the National Institute of Mental Health, where a scientist took a handful of ordinary people and gave them back the night their ancestors used to have. And what woke up inside them changes everything about that hour you spend staring at the dark. Here is the first thing nobody tells you. The idea that a healthy adult sleeps 8 unbroken hours, lights out to sunrise, in one clean block, that is not ancient wisdom. It is barely 100 years old. It arrived with the light bulb, and you have been measuring yourself against it your whole life, as if it were a law of nature. For more than 300,000 years, your ancestors did not sleep the way you've been told you must. They couldn't have. There was no switch on the wall. Think about what the night actually was. Before electric light, before gas lamps, a winter night was not 8 hours long. It was 14, sometimes 16 hours of near total darkness. A vast black ocean of time with nothing to do in it, and no way to light it cheaply. No human being sleeps 14 hours straight. So the night was something else entirely. And we have a remarkably detailed record of what. In 2001, a historian named Roger E. Kirch at Virginia Tech published a paper in the American Historical Review that quietly upended what we thought we knew about sleep. He had spent years combing through more than 500 references, diaries, court depositions, medical books, prayer manuals, novels, letters, spanning centuries of pre-industrial Europe. And buried in all of them was the same casual, repeated phrase, used the way you'd say lunch, as if everyone simply knew what it meant. First, sleep. And second, sleep. People went to bed not long after dark and slept for a few hours, the first sleep. Then, around midnight, they woke. Not by accident, not in distress, on purpose, the way the body was built to. And they stayed awake, in the dark, for an hour or more, a stretch the records called the watch. And here is the part that stops you. They did things in that hour. The records E. Kirch found describe people praying. There were prayer books printed with devotions written specifically for the time between the two sleeps. People reflected on their dreams while the dream was still warm. They talked quietly with whoever shared the bed. They made love. One 16th century physician advised that it was better done after the first sleep, when both partners were rested. Then, when the watch was over, they sank into the second sleep until morning. This was not a disorder. This was not a single tortured insomniac scribbling in a journal. This was how Western humanity slept, for as far back as the written word can see. So where did it go? It didn't evolve away. 300 years is nowhere near enough time for that. It was switched off. As gas lighting and then electric light spread through the 19th century, the night stopped being dark. Bedtimes slid later and later. The long, empty evening that used to be filled with first sleep got swallowed by lamplight and eventually the glow of screens. And the industrial world, with its factory whistles and its clocks, had no use for a leisurely hour of midnight wakefulness. Sleep was compressed, consolidated, squeezed into one efficient block at the end of a long, lit day. It happened fast. Within a few generations, the phrases vanished from everyday speech. By the early 20th century, first sleep and second sleep were gone, not just from our schedules, but from our memory that they had ever existed. And so, when the old pattern surfaces in you anyway, when your body, in the deep of the night, does exactly what it did for 300,000 years and gently lifts you into the watch, you have no name for it. No one ever told you it was normal. So you reach for the only word left. Insomnia. But here's how we know it isn't really gone. Here's how we know it's still in there, waiting. In 1992, a psychiatrist named Thomas Ware at the National Institute of Mental Health ran an experiment so simple it sounds almost unfair. He took 7 healthy men and gave them back the ancient night. For a month, he kept them in 14 hours of darkness every night, roughly the length of a winter night before artificial light, and he watched what their sleep did when the modern world was taken away. It cracked in two. Within a few weeks, the men stopped sleeping in one block. Their sleep split into 2 long bouts, a first sleep and a second sleep, separated by a quiet island of wakefulness, 1 to 3 hours, sitting right in the middle of the night. Nobody told them to do it. No tradition, no prayer book. Their bodies, freed from the light bulb, simply remembered. The pattern Ekirch found in 500-year-old diaries reassembled itself, intact, inside modern men in a single month. And then Ware found the detail that changes how you'll feel about 3 a.m. for the rest of your life. That hour of wakefulness was not anxious. It was nothing like your 3 a.m. He measured the men's blood and found that during the watch, their brains were washed in prolactin, a calm, quieting hormone, the same one that pools in a nursing mother, that settles a brooding animal into stillness. The men described this state as something close to meditation, not lying awake, not failing to sleep, a peaceful, drifting, awake but restful calm, suspended between 2 seas of sleep. That is what your body is trying to do at 3 in the morning. That is the thing you have been calling a disorder. So let's go back to the dark, to you, and the ceiling, and the cruel little numbers on the phone. The waking was never the problem. The waking is first sleep ending, exactly on schedule, exactly as it has for 10,000 generations. Your body did the most ancient, most natural thing it knows how to do. And then the modern world taught you to ruin it. Because the moment you wake, you reach for the phone. And its light is the one signal that tells the ancient clock the night is over, draining away the very melatonin that keeps the calm intact. You check the time, and you start the arithmetic of lost hours. You lie there certain you're failing, and the panic floods you with exactly the stress chemistry the prolactin was supposed to hold at bay. You took the quietest, most peaceful hour your ancestors ever knew, and you filled it with dread. Be honest with yourself here, because this matters. Not all sleeplessness is this. Real, grinding insomnia exists, the kind that comes with pain, or apnea, or grief, or a mind that genuinely won't let go. And that deserves real care. This is not a reason to skip the doctor. The mismatch is specific. It's that one calm waking in the deep of the night, the one where you actually felt fine, until you started counting. That one isn't a sign that something is wrong with you. It's a sign that something is still right. You are not an insomniac. You are not broken. You are running 300,000-year-old software, faithfully, in a century that paved over the night, and then told you that you were the one who malfunctioned. The hour your ancestors used to pray in, and dream in, and reach for each other in, is the same hour you've been taught to spend afraid. So the next time you surface into the dark, and the clock says something unkind, try, just for a moment, not to count. This hour was never the enemy. It was the one room in the whole day that belonged to no one but you. And the door is still open, if you can stop being afraid long enough to step through it.